Good morning, everyone. Today we'll be starting with an interesting chapter named Poet and Pancakes. Poet and Pancakes is written by Asoka Mitran. Now, this chapter is about a producing company, a filmmaking company named Gemini Studios. And Pancakes, it refers to the makeup brand which Gemini Studio used to order in truckloads. And what kind of environment used to be there on the sets? What kind of working environment was there? What people used to do? What used to happen behind the sets? What behavior do the people carry? The chapter is all about that. That is why the name has been given Poet and Pancakes. What role did this makeup brand played, in making the ugly faces look pretty? The lesson is taken from the book My Years with the Boss, written by Asoka Mitran. In this excerpt, he talks about all the elements that kept Gemini Studios running. From pancake makeup to the office boy of the makeup department, from Subbu to the lawyer, every element helped in making Gemini Studios a successful film producing company. So Gemini Studios is a successful film was a successful film producing company, and what were the elements, right, who played an important role in making this producing company a huge success? We'll come to know about it through this chapter. Whether it was the makeup brand, or it was the makeup artist, or it was the lawyer, or the people working day and night, working hard behind the sets, right? These elements who together played an important role in making Gemini Studios a successful producing company. In this lesson, Asoka Mitran talks about Gemini Studios and all that helps in keeping it in the spotlight. He starts by making a mention about Pancakes, the famous makeup brand which Gemini Studios ordered in truckloads. He then talks about the plight of actors and actresses who have to bear too many lights on their face while getting ready in the makeup room. That's how it happens. The faces who appear to be always smiling, the faces who appear to be, who appear very beautiful on the screen, they have to actually go through a lot of hard work. They have to sit in lights everywhere. They have to sit hours in the makeup room for getting the makeup done. Even these actors who appear to be always happy, who appear to be living a very comfortable life, even they have to go through a lot. Even they have to do their hard work to be there in the limelight. To look beautiful, it is also a tough job. The makeup department, according to him, used heaps of makeup to turn them into ugly looking creatures. Shockingly, he talks about the office boy of the makeup department, whose task is to slap paint onto the faces of the players at the time of crowd shooting. He was a poet and had joined the studio in the hope of becoming an actor, a screenwriter, director, or a lyricist. In those days, the author used to work inside a cubicle and had the task of collecting newspaper cuttings, which, according to others, was insignificant. Thus, office boy would come in time and again to bother him with his complaints. He was well convinced that the reason behind his misery was Subbu. He thought that Subbu had an advantage because he was born a Brahmin. Subbu was a resourceful man whose loyalty made him stand out. He was a tailor made for films, and it was difficult to imagine film making without him. Now we are, in this part we have talked about what kind of hard work these makeup artists used to do, right? In make what kind of makeup they used to apply, whether they have to make them look beautiful, whether they have to make them into ugly looking creatures. All that required hours of makeup, hours of hard work, and how makeup was applied on the on the face of the artist. Then we are talking about the office boy of the makeup department, whose task was to slap onto the faces of the players at the time of crowd shooting. Now, this office boy was a poet and had joined the studio in the hope of becoming an actor, a screenwriter, director, or a lyricist. Now, the person who was doing the office boy job. Now, this office boy job he was doing in the hope of becoming an actor or a screenwriter or a director or a lyricist. In those days, the author used to work inside a cubicle and had the task of collecting newspaper cuttings, which according to others was insignificant. Thus, office boy would come in time and again to bother him with his complaints. He was well convinced that the reason behind his misery was Subbu. Now, who was Subbu? Subbu was a resourceful man in the Gemini studios, without whom the film making would have been impossible. He was a very welcoming and was known for his hospitality. Just like many others at the Gemini studios, he also did poetry. He worked for the story department, which also consisted of a lawyer. People generally called him the opposite of a legal practitioner. He was a logical and neutral man amidst a room full of dreamers. Ashoka Mitran then describes how Gemini Studios got a chance to host a group of international performance called Moral Rearmament Army. Though the plots and messages were not complex, their sets and costumes were near to perfection. So much so that for many years, Tamil plays displayed sunset and sunrise in a way inherited from Jotham Valley. Then another guest, Stephen Spender, comes to visit Gemini Studios. People had hardly heard of him, and they couldn't even connect with him due to linguistic barriers. It was not until a few years later that Asoka Mitram saw his name in a book and realized who he actually was. Now, what you will do is you will draw a storyboard for the chapter. Now, before drawing the storyboard, what you will do is firstly you will read this chapter thoroughly. Go through the chapter thoroughly, read it, mark down the hard words. Try to understand what the theme of the chapter is, right? It's all about poets and pancakes, right? It's not about just the chapter, how the chapter is related to the title, right? So the chapter is about Gemini Studios first of all. Gemini Studios, which is a successful film producing company. And the reason behind the success of Gemini Studios are the people who are working hard day and night, the people who are working from behind, the people who are providing, awesome stories, the people who are, engaged in makeup of the artist to make them look camera perfect when they appear in front of the camera. The people, the office boy people, who are doing a lot of hard work. There is a character named Subbu as well, right? And how the office boy, he's jealous of Subbu, and what kind of thoughts come in mind due to which he thought he's facing this kind of behavior towards him. Then we are talking about the international artist, who had come to visit the Gemini Studios, and what kind of impression they have left with their work on the Gemini Studios and on the crowd of the people. So it's all about the people working on the sets, right? About the poets, about the artists, about the makeup artist, and what kind of role do these people have played in making this Gemini Studios a successful company. So firstly, go through it thoroughly. Read the chapter. Once you read the chapter, mark down the hard words with meanings and pronunciation. Go through the explanation, and then again, raise your questions, and again we'll discuss this chapter in detail. Meanwhile, just read it and try to understand what the theme of the chapter is. Thank you.